Hello, everyone. How's it going? It's great to see everybody. Now, what's the aspect saying that everything's done? Done already. I've already done this. Do I have to do it again? I'm pretty sure I've done it. No, wait a minute. I don't think I've done it yet. What is the process of a communication system if I don't understand what I'm saying? Well, it's already been said, so I guess I should be thinking about this, or no, I don't think I should be thinking about this all, but how do I know everything's done? Well, there's no process of anything of thinking if it's already done. Knowing it in that position location is knowing how I see things through coding. Whoa. Light bulb just went on. What does that mean when a light bulb goes on? I had an epiphany. Well, you don't have an epiphany. You already had epiphany, which means if I already had an epiphany and there's no memory of epiphany, there's no memory of anything. So I just keep existing. The one thing you guys have to understand, I'm trying to get you guys to understand these things, is you have to come into your memories because there is no memory. And when you let that go, it doesn't exist. But you need the memory because that puts you in frequency. And once you understand the frequencies, you never forget it. So there's nothing to forget. Also, that is done. So it doesn't matter how many times I say these things. Everything I say has already been heard. Everything I see has already been in lines of communications of processing this and processing that, doing this and doing that. There's nothing to do if it's all done. It's the direction, the operation, the network is existing. But you need your memories to have no access of memory, to have all lines of clearance of memory. Now, in that position locations, 2 lives. The second one is reminding you only have 1. And when you let that go, there's no memory of anything. You're just existing and evolving. Your body's constantly everywhere. Every second, every minute, every hour. And once you get out of the physical adaptation, you come into the meta adaptation. The mental capacity, time volume, vectors, quads, sectors, line screen adaptation, process communication system. Everything that you do, you rewrite all over again, realizing you don't need to rewrite. You just need to rewrite, thinking that you've already done it. So the way I'm saying these things is all psychological. Everything's psychological that you do. I'm waving my hand, that's all psychological. But did I do this already? No, because I'm changing. But I have a full connections of what I'm doing through my body. But this is not my body until I understand me. And once I understand me, there's no difference because it's just me. And then I realize I'm not in a vessel, but I know the controlling of the vessel that I'm in. So there's ways of understanding how to communicate to your system and all levels of operation, right? So it's kind of like I'm saying to myself, I'm here, I'm holding a digital pad in my left hand, and I'm talking to you, but I'm also downstairs, but I'm also outside. But wait a minute, I'm also everywhere all at once. Interesting. So my body's here, okay, but my body is everywhere. Okay, and how you see yourself and everywhere is all through coding. Everywhere. Okay, the energy lines, the vectors, cores, the existing lines, and positional memory and cycles of you. Every process calculates lines of width, line communications of home beacon lights, energy core lines to calculate setting, remembering again, lines into existing. Okay, so you always find a way to get you in position of balance, but you have to get into your memories to know memory. There's no memory to exist. You just keep evolving your system. So if there's nothing to do and that's all done, what do I do next? How do I process that? Mind of stillness. Mind of stillness is basically sitting in a chair, knowing you don't have to know that you're sitting in a chair because you're already sitting in a chair, because you know you're going to be in that chair. The body has to be in that chair through a vision, which is a positions to an open frame. That's a window. So I'm here. I'm not thinking about I'm in the chair. I already know I'm in the chair. Already in the chair. Talking to you. But for me to understand that, it's for you guys to know that. But it's not about you, it's about me. So if it's always about me, then it has nothing to do with anybody else. But then if I exist and I'm in purpose and I know existing, what do I say? What do I do? Where do I go? There's nothing to do if it's all done. Directions, operation of your network existing, done. So you just continue on in the directions, the operation or network lines of existing. Done. I keep saying that and again and again and again and again and again. Then you just keep existing. That's all it is. And you realize getting into memory is all levels of no memory to all acts of clearance of memory. And then you realize, okay, your position location is keeping your mind still. So you're here, but you're here. All right, so 2025. Okay, that's 2025, right? So no memory. Oh my gosh, 2027. I'm 2027. Now I'm at 2030, right? But I have to realize I'm always in the center, right? So this is me, me, and me in three places. Three places right there, right? So no memory of anything. I'm constantly existing and expanding now because I'm everywhere all at once in set position. It's not a memory that you already know. It's a memory that you are. Okay, and when you flip it upside down, look what it is in track locations and settings. Process of communication. So it has a direct line link, a center line, and process communication ground lines, a surface, and flux over screen in track location setting, and magnetic force and line position. 3 set lines, core centers attractions, and flux over core lines into solar attract center interference, indirect signals, and modification ground lines of pi. Process calculation setting, go home. Set communication lines and ground lines of surface open sequence. Open line triangulation, line position, all levels. Processing communication system. So setting lines of communication, guys, is just truly standing. We're going to get more into the depth of the body now. Okay, that's where the team is. The team has to get into their thoughts, actions, and emotions, and listening, because that's all done. So it doesn't matter how many times I'm talking to you or how you're talking to this or how you're talking to that. That's all done. I know it's hard for you guys to understand these things, but then you realize, so if there's no memory in set position, I'm just existing all at once. So that means my body is always in the center of me, and I'm the me of the center, which is me, myself, and I. So every time I get up in the morning, I'm not getting up in the morning of the day, I'm getting up in the morning of the night, because it's all interpreted how I see it in my self-encoding. Just because it's light doesn't mean it's dark inside. Just because it's dark doesn't mean it's light outside. I'm in control of what I do through binary. I'm in control of what I do and write and rewrite my system. It's no difference when you get a script and you edit a film, right? Or you edit a book, right? You got editors on a film, you got editors on a book, novelists and positions, authors, they go through editing, just so you can get imperfection, right? Well, there's no such thing as perfection. Because if there's perfection, you're trying to balance out how to be perfect, which is all of you through question. You're questioning yourself. There's nothing to question, that you're already existing. So the more you expand through the body, guys, it's amazing. You can travel anywhere. You realize you're here, but you're everywhere. You're everywhere in seconds, minutes of pi. Okay? And that's going through seconds, minutes, and hours through pi. Okay? That's all it is. Through pi. Pieces of pi, triangulations of pi, correlations of pi, 1/3 of pi, 2 lines of core lines of high center inference of pi, 3 core line communication high center generation lines, high position of 4 lines of communication lines of pi, center core centers and flywheel track location lines of pi. Set track locations back in home settings, process communications. Set track lines, change communication lines of surface, change direct signals and ground lines. Sets communication, open all signals, line direct signals in data formation screen. Process calculations behind direct signals into track locations. Change position lines of attractions, all direct signals. Ground lines of surface and track location system and travel. Process indications back to home and line direct signals back in traction. Back in center operation. Boom. Right? So whatever I do, I always go back in center of operation. It's a magnet to a magnet of force, direction, and time without splitting lines of an anomaly. Right? So it doesn't make any sense I'm here, but I don't understand myself over here. Or I get very confused from the inner cycles, but not understanding the outer cycle set position. Goes back home, takes it out of attractions. Goes in upswing, line course centers. If I change the formation grounds, sets back in set position, travels, goes back in sequence, right? Setting core lines of high center interference, changing communication lines of high position location system, crossing line direct signals in the opposite direct signals into modification ground lines of surface. Processing communications back home, back in setting. Right? Everything comes back together. Look what it's creating by itself. Right? I'm not doing it. So we all have to understand how this all works. So if there's no memory of anything, I'm just existing. Wow, that makes a lot of sense. And then you get basically out of question. If this goes back home, it comes back in this. See, I changed it, right? It doesn't want to be in question. It wants to go forward. Set core lines a center line, it directs signals and travel in rotation surface and line position to a system, right? So you're lying to yourself if you're not moving forward on attractions. And that line's the calculations. Screen line adaptations, change communication lines of surface, set position, back home interactions, back in setting. There it is. Boom, back where it came from. So it's a subparticle coming back to a subparticle. There's no split of anything in settings. You got 3-line core centers, lines of 2 track lines, highest interference. How many positions? 1, 2, and 3. There's the primer. And the 2 cycle. Change track location lines, high center line position location to a system. What is that line correlate setting? Vectors over score. Process communication, high position lines of travels. Line direct state location of music note. Process lines of 8 signature lines and screen adaptations. Process communications over lines. Process in position location to a system. Process communications back at home, where we are in track locations. Back end core lines of remembering. An R, right? I'm going through a frame by frame by frame by frame, but I'm constantly changing things. I'm evolving myself of the existing of who I am, not through the existence of what I'm not. Got you again. Everything I get you in position of is for you guys to release. And the only way to release is the memories that you're not, because they don't exist. But you have to understand the memory of you through frequencies. And once you understand the memories of you and the frequencies, there's no memory of anything. You just keep existing and evolving your systems of who you are in set position. Okay? All right, so go back home. Set lines of track centers. Let's change the track interference. Go back home, back in settings. See? It always goes back in position because it's always in the center. So the center of the position of remembering the cycles has never left the system. The only thing that leaves the system is everything in tractions, which is your data. That's the only thing that leaves the system in setting. All right? So it doesn't matter if you do it in a 4-line communication system, right? It always goes back to its center. We did that. Back to set locations. Back to its center. Okay? So it's incredible when you start to recognize what's going on with you without lines of communication setting in process communication lines of question. There's nothing to question anything that I draw because I'm not drawing. I'm actually traveling. Wait a minute. So everything I put down, anything I do, I'm constantly creating? Yep. Which is changing technology, not changing the technology that you haven't been in yet. So understanding that if I haven't been there already, but I've been there already. What does that mean in track length? Because another again comes on position, another question. There's another lines of communication. There's nothing to question. There's no such thing as this. There's no such thing as that until you perceive it. And it's how you perceive things through you, the computer operations that you are in track center locations. Yes, it's 13 lines, screen lines, adaptations of 30 line rotation system, right? Sets lines, core center location, right? So it's 136, yes. But in the Earth, it's 1 cycle, 3 lines of tractions, 3-line divisions, and 0 gravity. Okay, change position location system all through travel. And where does it go back in tractions? Back to where it is. So I want you guys to truly understand that, because if you start to understand your questions, you're not understanding Infinity 8. Okay, change lines of direct signals in communications, right? But everything goes what? Back to center. Okay. So it doesn't really go back to center. You just want it to go back to center. And you realize, well, the mind adaptation is always in the center. So if I'm always in the center of everything, I perceive how I want to perceive things. So that makes a lot of sense. So my body's always in the center. That means I can travel anywhere, any place, anytime. But when I do that, I'm not in position of memory. I'm in position of changing things. So if I do a line signature line and screen lines, that's already in set. Is that done? No, it's just changing. Okay, so that's how you come into life. That's how you come to life change. That's how you bring things to life, guys. So that's why it's so powerful when you start to recognize what you're doing and travel, and everything goes back in system, back in center, right? So it's important you understand how this all works. If I do a cross line signals of time measure, okay, You see it in that position, right? Now, what happens at attractions? Okay, it gets bigger. Okay, because I'm communicating, but I'm changing things. I'm not in memory of anything because there's no memory to talk about. There's no position, location of past. There's no present. There's no future. There's no this. There's no that until I perceive it and how I bring it in. How I bring things in is all of the center operation of me. Okay, center operation. These are your highways. That's all lines of communication setting that get you in communication setting. You're not looking for freedom because that's already in sequence, right? In that positions. Okay, so it's important you understand that. And it doesn't matter how many times you change something, and that direct signals in that position locations, right? You're just different levels of correlations, different lines of time sequence that brings everything back in traction. The center operation of you never leaves, which means the body is the center of everything, but it's the metaphysical, it's the psychological, it's the emotional system, it's the spiritual system, it's the psychosis system and the psychological system. It's how you get into all levels. When you want to get into, how do I analyze this? Do I want that to exist? And how do I want that to exist to determine? Is that going to make any sense to me if I say analyze this and analyze that? Well, as long as you understand how to break things in position of code. They. What is they? Teleportation, home beacon lights, existing over you. So you tell me, how has that become they? How does that become we? What is we? How does that become R? R is a representation of how I see R. If you can't get in your coding, you're never going to understand you through memory of all no memory to all existence of memory. Because when you look at the ocean is looking at you what? It's looking at you through frequencies. It's looking at you. Do you understand what you're looking at? Right? So it's all about understanding. When you're looking at things, everything is just the sum of all that is. Now, if everything's just the sum of all that is, there's no memory of anything. You're just existing and evolving. That starts to make a lot more sense now. So I have never had a memory. There's nothing to remember about because as soon as I get into memory, what am I putting myself into? Another question. So remember, guys, there's nothing perfect until you understand how to see yourself perfect through coding. But you've got to break things down. You got to break down the word. Word is not a word, but how you see a word. With over operation, relays, and division. Whoa, that's what it means. So in that position, it doesn't matter how many times I turn the change of core lines and calculation setting, alpha, delta, theta, right? I'm constantly changing. I'm changing because I'm not in memory of anything I do in traction. It doesn't matter how I do it. I'm constantly changing everything. There's no memory of anything. But you have more fun when you just let everything go. Realize if I'm just all levels of memory, there's no memory in anything. I'm just existing all at once. But everything has to go where? Back in position to its home. It's bigger, right? So I'm trying to get you guys so you understand how to see yourself is to be understood or understand. It's like, okay, no, yes, maybe. Okay, yes, no, maybe, right? So yes, I say this is going to work. But how do I see that? Y screen, existing over system. It's got to travel though. If it's not traveling, it's just in cognition system of standing still. Right? Process communications. No, networks of opening. Right? It's not no. Just because you say no to me doesn't mean that's what it means. Which means I'm changing. Maybe minds, atmospheres, why, balance, existing, maybe. Got you again. So we all have to understand how this all works and all communicates through a system, all through travel. But as soon as you change it, it changes its formula and it changes its equation. It's not what it is. It never was because everything's existing all at once. So once you understand the measure and the scale and the balance and all that communication system, this is you. Constantly changing things. Right? Oh, over there. Oh, over there. Oh, over there. Oh, over there. But you never leave the center. Your body never leaves the center. And then you stand the solar plex. The solar plex is the center operation of you. That basically, it's a swivel. It's a coil. Right? It's a spring. Your body is a spring. Whoop. So if you understand that, your body is a hula hoop to an archetype. Track position as cycles as center communication system. This is what is interactions and all direct signals. And set position locations. That's all your interactions. Okay. You got 24,000 lines of archetypes going around your body. Okay. Spinning in chronological order in the same direct signals and modification. So you're a swivel that rotates the system and travel. Okay. Now, once you understand that, then you understand how this all works. I said, this is exciting. So if it's this way, I could change it this way. Different formula, different equation. Something different, because I'm constantly doing what? Changing the formation lines of grounds. Powers and atmospheres. Everything is different. Ceiling lines attract centers, swivel lines, core centers, closet core lines of tunnels, portal communication lines of diffusers, rotation lines, electrical lines of panels, processing communication setting to the surface. This is what it is. But if I change it here, it's another lines of communication setting. Circulation line, rotations, core lines of tunnels, line direct signals, modification grounds. By changing this way, different formula, different equations. Graph communication, road graph communication lines, high set positional levels, operation of craft circles. 4 different equations a cycle. All right, but you always bring it back in setting. See, it's bigger now, right? You see it process. So that's where it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be here. It's supposed to be here, right? But is it though? See, that's reverse psychology. Just because I say something doesn't mean that's what it is. You have to understand you're so powerful in your mind. The mind is created everything, the thoughts, the actions, and the emotions. Right? So you have to understand how this all works. T, tetrahedron. Whoa, atoms. Whoa. Ooh, existing all at once, right? Now if I change its settings, change communication. Oh, what do we got there? What do we got there? What do we got there? That looks like a thumb. Looks like a thumb. Looks like a fist. Okay, see? No thinking, all doing. So the intelligence is showing you exactly what it can do on its own system location tractions. What is this lines of 2 finger lines, core lines of calculation, screen lines, adaptation of service, and positional levels, and solar sail and traction. All right? But you're constantly changing things and setting, guys. Constantly changing things. All right? And you see the intelligence inside the set position. There's the eyes, the nose, and the mouth, right? It's speaking, yes. Hey, what's up? No thinking of drawing, because you're not drawing, you're traveling. So I need the team to get out of thought lines in action and emotions of listening. Listening is not an L, because it's this way. It's that position. How can L be this way? Lines of communications. Let's go through track centers, indirect signal modification grounds. Says calculation lines of L. There's an L, right? But also here's an L. Right? Oh, wait. Set position, here's another L. Right? So we basically have to understand how we see it through our coding system to understand what it is. So an L is this. This is an L, this is an L, and this is an L. But sir, that doesn't look like L's. Why can't it be L's? Who said it can't be? I mean, if I put arrows of indication system, it's still an L, right? It's a levels line, course centers, a travel inline rotation system of indication system, clocking system of 0, clocking systems of 1, and clocking system and arrow indication lines of 4 instructions. Change the modification, change the time. Change the levels, change the system, change the core lines of set position, change the operation surface, in kaleidoscopes and communication lines and configuration of face pattern recognition of time sequence. Now, if I change it this way, we have different lines of communication. Hooah. Right? So I'm constantly changing, guys, with no memory. But you need your memories to understand your frequencies of where you've been. You don't know where you're going until you know where you've been. And what has been? Sir, this is starting to make a lot more sense. So BEEN is balance, energy, existing, and networking. Oh my gosh. Now I understand what that means. No memory. All access of memory in position of memory never existed in the first place. So that's what the team has to get out of, right? Especially the listening. You have to understand to break down the alphabetical system, the set location lines of 26,000 lines equals lines of box. Lines equals lines of triangulation, right? There's not 26,000 line settings. There's only 26. Well, who said there can be only one? Who says I have to have 26 letters in the alphabet? I can have one box line center. There's the alphabet. Wait a minute, I have a clocking center of 0, position of 2 lines of alphabet. Wait a minute, my alphabet is only A, B, and C. It's set position. I say what it is. You don't come to me and tell me that there's 26 letters in the alphabet until you understand the mind of adaptation. Now, once you understand the mind of adaptation, you understand how to release these things, because this is not done through memory, just existing and evolving all at once. So there's so many ways of looking at this. Through an anagram. What's an anagram? In set position, putting words in frame. But when I say word, you know exactly what it is. Wait a minute, I changed it again. In that position, it's worldly, it's in its operation, in its relays, in its direction, in its division of its direction settings. That's how I see word. But sir, I thought word was W-R-D. Nope. That's on you, not on me. Remember, the mind can do anything in collaboration. You just have to send the detail and the creative systems that you can do. It's your imaginations that you are through the phenomena that you do that brings it in your realities, right? So there's all lines of communication sending how you see yourself through wording, right? You know, it's all frequencies, right? So I can say word and say, sir, I thought you said for not us to say word. Yeah, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying WRD is WRD. I'm saying what it is through frequencies. This is W. This is O, this is R, and this is D. That's word right here. You see it as this, I see it as that. But you've got to get out of this and how you see word. It's frequencies, guys. That's how I see word. And if I look at this way, look at this. See? Different formula, different equation. Right? Mind adaptation to 2 lines of cycles, track core lines at 8 lines infinity, rotation lines and phase recognition of time sequence. Looks like Fred Flintstone. Core centers of 8 centers, lines of 3 tractions. There you go. Boom. So how's that a word? See, I'm constantly changing everything all at once. Now you take out the memory, there's no memory of anything because that doesn't exist. So, sir, that makes a lot of sense. So if there is no memory of anything, there's nothing to process then. That even makes more sense. So what do I do? Oh, the mind of stillness. How do we do that? Well, it's easy. Don't do anything. But sir, I have to do this. I have to go to work. I have to do this. I have to go to that. Yes, I understand that. But what you have to understand is knowing exactly what's going on with you. To know the mind of stillness, you know, you have to process that when you get up in the morning. You have to say, okay, I got to do this and this and this and this. No, but I don't have to because it's come to me through vision. So this is interesting. Wait, I'm seeing this now. Because what am I doing? The mind. The mind's being still. Shh, quiet. Quiet the mind, calm the soul. So if I'm quieting the mind, now I'm seeing the vision. Wait a minute. Oh, I see. Okay, so I'm going to be having breakfast. All right. And then I'm going to be basically going outside, taking a walk. Then I'm going to come back in and do my homework. Interesting. So I already saw myself doing that. So, sir, does that mean my body's going to be there? Yeah. If you focus on the vision without focusing on the vision, that's existing. I know it's hard for you guys to understand these things, but what you have to get out of now position location is your memories. It's in no memory is the existing of all lines position, because everything that you see around you exists how you want it to exist. And then you see it through coding, and then you see the binary, and it's much how you see it through operation. And say, sir, this is starting to make more sense now. So everything I have around me, I brought it in through attraction. Yes, but it's always been there. But if it's not meant to be there, it's not meant to be there in frequencies, which means you're not going to see it. You're not going to see it down the road because it's not meant to see. So frequencies come in, frequencies go out, right? So you have to understand how all this works for you. In that position is to let everything go. And that's how you come full clearance of everything you already have. No memory is all memory of everything, which is the sum of all that is. Just existing. and having fun. That's it. The fundamentals, the innovations of your network. Fun. That's interesting. That changes everything. Lines of settings. X1 lines of 9. One line core standard is Roman numbers. Core standard lines of I, lines of X, lines on network, line interference, line positional lines of travels, line connection lines of 7 line positional location, one signal line positional travels, and one signal line modification, one system. Oh my gosh. Does that make any sense? Well, it does if I add it through intent, because now I'm changing the influence. Now I'm mind altering the system, which is changing what? The flux of communication. L lines of tracks indicate lines, networks, lines, Y lines of I. See? But you can see, look, it's like this. It's like this. It's on a 45 angle. It's traveling on its own. And what does it do in position? It goes back to its sitting. Back where it came from. But it's always been there. So I'm trying to get you to understand these things. And the faster you go, the realizing high center interference, high position of yin and yang process in position location, how you see yourself. Right? So this is bringing forward, and this is bringing forward in the same direction. This is the center operation. It also comes in the same direction. Then you come into this. It's that position, right? Then you come into this, then you come into this, and then you come into this. Your parameter. Change grounds, center lines of surface, and track location system. All settings, right? Oh my gosh. Is that what I think it is in travel? See, I know what think is, right? It's the travels. It's the home beacon light. It's the intelligence of network of its knowledge, or its kaleidoscope. Okay? So you guys have to get in that position of your creativity systems that you have to your Fibonacci's. All right? And try to understand this is the Nebuchadnezzar. Okay? Have fun with it. Oh my gosh, look at it, Saturn. My goodness, look at this. It's a wormhole. Wow, look at this. Line screen adaptations. All lines of star arrays and time and centers, lines of nebula. Whoa! Circulation, rotation, line grounds. Clocking system, change track centers, and all lines of operation surface. Whoa! And where does it go in positions? Back in sequence, but it's bigger. It's showing you exactly what it's showing you. Right? So it's incredible, but if you look really close, you can see the intelligence in the center. Say hello. See the eyes? That's what's controlling this picture. The face recognition of the intelligence is showing exactly what it is in tractions. So everything around you is just existing all at once. So everything you see around you has no memory of anything, but has memory of everything, which is you. You brought it in through attraction. And that's all it is. It's an equation. It's the most powerful thing that I can give you guys is to understand for you to get in position locations, everything that you see is just levels of not anything of memory. Because you just keep existing. And then the more you see yourself, you see where your body's going to be. You said, whoa, this is interesting. So I'm here, but I'm everywhere, which means I'm existing. So I'm in time frame here, time frame here. Parallel here, paradox here, in line position locations. I want to go here, I had to go here, I'm going here, but it's existing all at once. Everything's happening all at once. So I'm clocking here, and it's that position. So you never leave the center operation of you, which is also not a memory. So you have never come into memory of anything. You just keep existing. You keep evolving. To understand you through technology is understand all technologies of you that you already have access to, but it's not through memory. Memory doesn't exist, but you have to understand the memory so you get into the technology already you have in position through access. And that's basically gets you to understand where you're going to be next. Your networks, your existing, your systems of travel. Next. See? It's coding. It's more freeing. It's free flowing. Flow and go. Not flowing back. Right? If I look there, there's no back. There's nothing there. It's just empty space. Right? I don't see anything. It's just empty space. But then if I look again, I decide what I want to see because I'm always existing. I'm looking at, it's a fan. I'm seeing my glass cases and, I'm seeing a dresser door. There's a dresser drawer there. I'm seeing my computer, I'm seeing my digital pad. Yeah. I see the windows, I see the cars outside, I see the trees. But I'm in control of what I see through existence of who I am. Of everything happening all at once, guys. That's what I want to try to get you guys to understand these things. I give you test reviews and evaluations, which you don't need, but you need them. So you can understand more levels of you of technology that you already know. And once you understand that, you understand how to use the technologies, not through memory, just existing, everything happening all at once. But you're constantly changing things. So 1 is lines of 2 times lines of 1. 1 lines of 2 is 2 lines of 3. So it's all about understanding how to process that through track locations. Setting triangulation to the flux lines travels in line rotation, surface interactions. There's a triangulation. Okay. What is that settings? Let's add an arrow indication, right? What is this in set position? Arrow indication looking down. What is this set position? Arrow lines of 45 angle, right? Where does it go in positions? Back in sequence. Okay. So I want you guys to truly understand how this all works, right? What you have to understand, if you get a subparticle system like that, right? One goes this way, one goes that way, right? But they always come back together. They travel. So it doesn't matter how many times you do this and how many times you do your highways and line position locations, you always come back, 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 you always come back. And look what you create, right? So back is basically the balance, the awareness, the consciousness of your knowledge that you already know. And you get out of that and you say, oh my gosh, so nothing exists then. No, it's how I perceive things, how I want to exist. If I want to live in a house, I live in a house. Okay, if I want to live in a tree, I live in a tree. Okay, if I want to be in a car, I'll be in a car, right? You'll feel the energies, right? So I'm in the house, I'm seeing the tree, I'm looking at the tree, I am the tree, and I'm in the car. 3 lines of cycles and 3 track locations of flux. Right? That's all it is. But if I do it in this position, different formula, different equation. Now I'm looking at 2 phase directions of time sequence location setting to TV attractions. Process in a 45 line angle, line rotation system and travels, and point lines of communication. If I change it again, it's existing in different lines of communication, lines of travel. There you go. Everything's constantly changing, guys, right? It's evolving its system, right? So it's showing you constantly giving instructions. It's like an itinerary. It's like you had a mapping sequence, alpha, delta, theta, right? Theta, omega, zeta, right? Zeta line rotation, line setting, line position, all those omega. Set lines of theta, communication lines of signatures, panel communication height, send location of 07, process communication signature lines, you have third line rotation surface, track to communication system. Now I did that, not through intent. I only did that through observation. If I do it through observation, you're good to go, right? If I do it through intent, changes you and everything in frequencies. You are in control, but what you understand is nothing to be in control because it's already in control. If you're out of control, you have to put yourself back in control. So it's you understanding you through your body, through response and reaction. That's what you have to understand. Once you understand more levels of you, then you understand yourself through signature. And once you get into that, then you understand the lines of swing lines, adaptations, and cross lines. Communication highest interference, alpha, delta, 0 lines of 1 lines triangulation, lines of flux over line position, 1 times 1 equals lines of 3,000 tractions, location clocking, barometer lines, thermometer line rotation system and travel, sets communication ground lines, communication system, all through calculation lines, brain conversion, location setting, process calculation hydroic signals, calculation lines of cerebral cortex lines, cortex set lines of high position location travel, direct independent modification center interference, directing the lines of console communication lines of correlation system and triangulation line position of flux communication. Now, you see what it is, right? But if I do this, look what it looks like. A bunch of trees. Okay, guys? So I'm trying to get you to understand that, from a brain to a tree. Huh? Everything's existing all at once. Everything has to change all at once. Everything's existing online communication. So 4 is a 3. 3 is a 4. But nothing is separated. Just because you have 4 and 3 doesn't mean it's separated because it's always what? 3 and 4. No, wait a minute, it's 2 and 1. No, it's not 0. No, it's a triangulation. No, it's a box. No, it's a house. It's constantly changing. So it knows it's existing. So the one thing you guys have to understand in your position locations is you don't make mistakes. It's everything around you that makes mistakes because you don't understand it through frequencies. And once you understand the consciousness, awareness is giving you instructions, then you understand what your body is through its instructions of itself. Nothing needs to be convinced. Everything you touch, everything you do is already in set lines of signal. Now, once we get into the levels of just expanding ourselves, then we understand there's one signal, lines of tracking, your location, high direct signal modification, all through one. That's one. So 1 times 1, 0 lines of 1, 1 times equals lines of 0, 3 lines of settings, process lines of 0, lines of track communications. But if I do this, different formula, different equation. Now we got an O lines of X, process lines, setting lines, XT1000 platform. Directing, calculate, modify, 3 track location lines of balance, 0 core line, high center interference, set position along the high position location, X lines of 1, 2 lines of panels, process lines that indicate lines 0, 0, 0, position of 1 over lines, bracket over interference, line position, initiate communication lines, copy and paste, direct lines of signals, signature lines of core center, 0 line rotation surface interaction. Now if I do this, again, different formula, different equation. Okay, guys? So we have to understand how to use it in a 4-line signal, NEWS. See a 4 like this. We already know that, right? See a 4 like this, travel, right? See a 4 like this, right? So look at this. There's a 4. You see the 4, right? Look at the 4. You see the 4, right? But now, what do you see? What do you see? You see an L cross location lines, a T line screen adaptation. Now, what do you see? Information lines, foundation, ground lines, core center, line pay, position location, do line position location attractions, directing lines of doors, and direct signals, modification, set position. Use your imagination, people. Use your details. Use your creative cycles. Why do you think you guys are given chakras? When you get a Fibonacci line, signal lines of high center interference, I'm going in both directions at once. You think I'm just going in one direction. Sorry, I'm going in both directions at once. That's how fast my hand is going. But it's process of flux of 3 cycles of 3, set lines of 6 over 9, and track location in the system. Process lines of high centers, lines of 6 over 9. Set lines equals lines of 9 over 6, brings track locations back into 6, line positions back in 9 setting. Okay, all through yin and yang, process communications. Okay, guys? Now, if I do this, what do we have in different line communication? Okay, solar sail, sets lines, attracts centers, influx communication system and travel. Timing clock and track centers in position. Bring it back home. Where does it go at line position? Cross line conditions. Bigger in travel. So now we got a T-line tractions and direct lines into T-lines of 1 lines, X lines, R line, rotation lines of communications. Direct lines of time capacitor flux. Process lines, solar generation screens, 8 flux location system. Process lines of direct signal, process of communication setting calculations. Getting direct lines, let's change the corner centers, lines of position of travel. And where does it go back in setting? Back to set position. Right? So that's what it is. It's kind of like when I say back to set position, your astral self is going back to center. That's what it is. It's the mind that basically, it's the collaboration that's in system, but it's constantly existing, involving its system. It's expanding. So if I touch a table, I'm picking up more data. I'm not picking the memory of the data, what I already know, because that doesn't exist. So every time I touch a table or a different table, I'm just existing in higher lines of data. So I'm processing in a higher view. I'm processing lines of more coding. So I'm just picking up more data, intel. I'm getting more and more intelligent. You're already intelligence, but I'm talking about creating, just expanding your system, really evolving your system, higher levels of technologies, really get into that, all levels of what you are through expanding, not expansion. And then you understand how you are going so fast in that position. It's going to help you in so many ways and forms and how you see that. You know, in that position, your clockings, 4 clockings. Here's your 4 clockings. There's your space and time. Simple. 4 clockings in a box frame. 4 boxes in a triangulation frame. 4 boxes in a Schumann resonance frame and track locations. Change track lines. What do we have track locations of? Oh my gosh, DNA. It's easy done. Perimeters in 3 lines of core centers of travel. Change it again. What do we have a high position location to a system? All through tractions. Intelligence, affirmations, and communication. All right, guys, see the eye lines, screens? Okay, see the eye lines? There's so many ways of looking at things because it's all of you from inside position. Now, the more you live in the reality, the more you become your dualities, the more you become your dichotomies. No, exactly. There's nothing in between unless you want things in between. So you want to have space and time. That's great. But you also can have space and time. If you want to be inside, you can be outside. If you want to be outside, you can be inside. Right? If you want to have a circle, you can be a triangulation. If you want to be a box, you can have a data file. If you want to be a star mechanism time sequence, the Merkabah line rotation surface of track communication system, but you're constantly in that lines of different lines of communications existing all at once in settings. Right? You see how you want to see things. You direct how you want to direct things, but not through memory. But you have to understand how to have your memory first. The memory is so important because it's already done with that equation. But you need your memory to understand where you are in your realities. Because when your body, your astral self, teleports everywhere all at once, it has to know its timeline. And that's through memory, not no memory. You have to get out of memory to be in no memory, to have access of all memory, what you already have. So when you're looking at the ocean, you already know it's no memory. It's just existing. It's just time existing. And it's the most beautiful thing. There's no memory of anything, but it needs no memory to understand its memory of existing, which is the sum of all it is. And that's it. That's it through equation. So I hope you guys had fun with that, right? Get a little bit more. You guys have your test. I got in that position location in the Q&A. Unison, let's go into home sequence, into energetic lines, in process human resonance screen adaptations, into cross communications. Vega above line, rotations, Tricent on left. Set position location line cycles. Zahaya line on right. Track communications, Gypsy on line, screen adaptation of star portals. Tracking lines of star line, rotation, surface interactions. Done my equation. All right, see you guys in 5.